Our minds were made for more. Our minds were made for more. Your mind was made for more. The verse today is, the verse is, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, plans to not harm you. This comes from Jeremiah 29:11. It's one of those verses that many of us have memorized. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and to not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Your mind was made for more. Father, expand my thinking today beyond every limitation, everything that I believe can happen. And I have accepted every ceiling I have ever lived under. Expand my thinking today beyond every limitation that I have accepted as every ceiling that I have lived under. The absolute truth here is that most people are not living below their potential because of lack of opportunity. And I guess you have to come from the premise that most people are living below their potential. And remember, potential is what God has given you, that He has said you have the ability to do this. Not what somebody places on you as their potential to fill in your life, but what you know you have the capable of doing. And if you would agree with me that most people are living below that potential, and now we can have the premise as it's not because of lack of opportunity. Not in this day and age, not in this time. If you are watching this, if you have the ability to see what I'm speaking right now, you have opportunity. But the most people are not reaching their opportunity because they're living below it because of lack of imagination about what God actually intended their life. Wow, God has these plans for our life. He plans to prosper us and give us hope. And if we go back to the verse, it says, for I know He had plans for me, plans to prosper me, plans to not harm me, plans to give me hope. And here's the key word in this verse that we are talking about today is He has plans to give us a future. And so our potential is not being met because of lack of imagination or lack of hearing, because faith comes by hearing and hearing of the word, the imagination of what God actually intended for our lives. Our minds were not designed to be in survival mode all the time. It was not designed for mediocrity. Today we're going to end with, I refuse to have a mediocre life. I will not settle for a mediocre life. And yet so many people believe that this is what life gave me. This is the box of chocolates that is being given to us. And then we're okay for settling or living with the boundaries that fear and familiarity have drawn around our lives. How do we draw new boundaries? How do we take away the fear and the familiarity and be willing to go towards the risk and the reward? Right? God designs your minds for expansion, for growth, for creativity, for vision, and for the kind of thinking that looks at what does not yet exist and believes it's possible because God said so. God said so. I'm going to highlight these because I want you to really think about what God has designed your life for. If God designed your mind for expansion, that means it's limitless in where it can go. If He designed your mind for growth, that means sitting in the same thing every single day is something that we don't want to happen. If God designed your life for creativity, that means He's put something in you that is not in somebody else. Because if it was somebody else's creativity, I'm not saying that you're not doing some of the same things. I'm saying you're doing it in a different way, maybe. Two people can look at the same picture and draw it differently and still have an automobile, right? How many different designs there are of cars that are on the road today? that have ever been on the road today. And cars have only been around for a little over 100 years. And how many different versions of cars have there been? He's created us for vision to be able to see what others can't see. He's created us for the kind of thinking that looks at what does not exist and believes is possible. And why? Because God said so. You were made for so much more, not more things, more of God, more of purpose, more of life. Not more things, more of God, more of purpose, and more of life. He has designed you before you ever took your first breath. He knows what's possible. Are you reaching your potential? Here's an example here. A talented professional has been in the same position for, let's say, 7 years. Not because of lack of ability, but because he stopped believing there was more available to him. They convinced themselves that what they had was good as it was going to get. As good as it was going to get. Then one conversation, one book, one moment, and one honest prayer cracked that ceiling open. They realized the limitation was never an external limitation. It was their own thinking. Within 18 months, within just expanding their vision, things we talk about all day long today, right? Where they're operating at, the level they had previously only seen in other people's lives. Today, I'm going to ask you to sit and say, figure out what God wants you to notice right now. Maybe, my friend, what he wants you to notice after we do this day after day for 206 days, what he wants you to notice is there is a future. And he wants you to notice that you have a vision. He wants you to notice that he's placed greatness inside of you. And there was a season in my life when I had unconsciously drawn a circle around what I believed was possible for me. A circle built from past disappointments. A circle built from a comparison with others. A circle built from voices that told me to be realistic, to told me that I don't need enough. A circle of people that would find me and tell me I don't need more. A circle of people that would tell me you just have to settle for. Circles of people that tell you I don't want to live in the abundant life. I don't want to live in what God has given me, in the things and the desires that he has given me in my heart, and the things that the Holy Spirit has been able to share with me about the vision of what's possible. And then somebody comes around and says, you don't need that. The voices that told me to be realistic from fear of wanting something bigger and not getting it. I called it humility. But it was not humility, it was a small vision dressed up in spiritual language. I want to be able to say, God did it. And people to look at it and say, well, God can do it for me too. The day that God began to dismantle that circle through his word, through the right relationships, through the moment of genuine prayer, where I asked him to show me what he actually had in mind, everything began to shift. I was not being arrogant by wanting more. I was finally agreeing with God who designed it for me. So when we think about our mind insight today and what's going on in our mind, research in cognitive psychology shows that our mental models, the internal frameworks we use to interpret what is possible, directly determine the opportunities we notice, the risks that we take, and the goals that we pursue. People with expansive mental models consistently outperform equally talented people with limited ones. Not because they have more ability, but because their mind is scanning for more possibility. Their mind is looking for more that is possible. Their mind is standing in the gap for them, saying, this is where you are, this is where you can be, and this is the future for you. Neuroscientists call this the reticular activating system. It's the brain's filtering mechanism that finds evidence of whatever it has been programmed to look for. That's why it's important to get out. It's important to see what is available and then begin your mind on the process of what does God have for me. God's vision, it will begin finding pathways you never even noticed before. So our heart connection today, you are not being humbled by thinking small. You are not being humble by thinking small. You are disagreeing with the God who designed you for more. Where have you drawn a circle of limitation around the life that God never drew? Where have you driven a circle around or drawn a circle around and said, I guess this is the life that is for me? God didn't draw that, you drew that. God didn't say that, you said that. God didn't put that in your heart, you put that in your heart. So I want you to write down one area of your life where you've been thinking too small. Then write down what it would look like if God's plan for that area was bigger. Draw it bigger, think it bigger, expand it bigger. Be around people that allow you to draw it bigger, think it bigger, expand it bigger than anything you have previously allowed yourself to believe. Pray over it, declare it, and begin watching for evidence that God is already moving in that direction. Short prayer for today is, Father, expand my thinking beyond every limitation. Father, expand my thinking beyond every limitation that I have accepted. Show me the plans you have for me, the plans that are bigger, deeper, and more purposeful than anything that I have imagined on my own. Help me to agree with your vision instead of my fears. May every ceiling you have been under be lifted up today, and may your mind expand into the fullness of everything God has always had in the mind for your life. The question I ask for you today is, where have you been thinking too small about what God has for your life? What limitation have you accepted as permanent that God may actually be calling you to challenge? And what would you believe was possible for your life if fear was completely removed from that equation? I'm going to put that in the chat today. I'm going to put that in the chat so that you will have it to think about. Why didn't it go here? Try it again. Didn't paste. I don't know why. There we go. It is now in the chat. All right. Now, so let's think about, what does it mean to live? What does it mean to live this? Circle limitation you have been living was never drawn by God. It was drawn by fear, by disappointment, by the voices of people who could not see what God placed in you, by the lies you believed when life got hard. Today, I want you to draw yourself a new circle. Make that circle bigger, one that matches what God said in Jeremiah 29:11, plans to prosper you. Right? One that is as big as his plans, as wide as his purpose, and as deep as his love for you. Your mind was made for more. And start thinking like it. Your mind was made for more, and I want you to start thinking